The reason that agents don't like auction, from my experience, is because it takes more work as an agent to do an auction than it does to do a traditional listing. You don't have to
Yeah.
have these conversations. When you're getting 15 offers, you don't have to deal with 15 different agents when you're listing traditionally. In this aspect, you do. But I'm here to say that, based upon the business that we're growing, that the more conversations you're having, the more people you're spreading the word to, the more sellers you're in front of, that's how you build a bigger business. If you're looking to just kind of hide out, put your sign up and not talk to anybody, then this is probably not the way for you to go ahead and build a real estate business.
Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Rethink Real Estate. We have one of the auction pioneers within our network. Not only is he a dear friend to the Harcourts auctions team, but also he's one of the ones that we got to use as our guinea pig on all of the process and try and figure it out as we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chad Widtfeldt. Chad, welcome.
Good afternoon, Ben.
Very good. Now, let's for those that are watching on YouTube and can actually see, let's just break down the room behind you. I'm going to go as far as to say that it's your son's Hudson's room. However, I could be wrong about that.
It's the room. It's my son's room. It's also the room I sleep in when I get kicked out of my room. So it serves as multi-purposes.
So, mate, I really appreciate having an Australian character in the background as well, Bluey.
Bluey's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, that's good, mate. You've always kept the Australians close to you along the way, so we do appreciate it.
Harcourts and Bluey, let's go.
That's right. So, folks, just so that those don't know, is that Chad, his beautiful wife Laura, Callista, and I were very close friends external to the Harcourts auction business. But the interesting part about it is that he's got two wonderful children that Callista and I are the godparents to. So at the end of the day, he's being paid today to actually say good things about us. However, is that the one thing that I do adore about both of his kids is that they believe that they can speak a foreign language, which is Australian. Little do they know that it's English, but they believe that it's in front of their class. We can speak another language, and it's Australian. G'day, mate.
It makes us look stupid as parents when they're telling their teachers that they can speak Australian. I'm like, Lord have mercy.
So, folks, Chad joins us as he is one of the presidents and founders of the Green Group, which is a team within the Harcourts network that is actually responsible for being the number one auction team in the country. These guys do an incredible volume of auctions. Chad, I'd go as far as to say that at least 60% of your business would be auction orientated. Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, over the past couple months and where we're going, I put it closer to 80%.
Yeah, and I think that you guys have chosen to have a serious focus on it when you first entered the business to really give you guys a sort of leg up on the competition. I want to dive into that, first of all, a little bit of history on yourself and Justin, who is your business partner, is that I guess that first of all is that what was the thing that ultimately got you to try auction? But also, what was the reluctance for you guys in the very beginning? Because, you know, there's a decorative story there around your first auction and all of that type of stuff. However, I guess that what was your not only apprehension to the auction process, but what was the enthusiasm behind it? Because I know you guys came in guns blazing about auction, but then what was the apprehension about it when you got into it?
Those are good questions. I think the starting with the excitement, I mean, when we first started, we were really everything was really getting bootlegged together and really trying to build the company. So you were a strong force at the time in the auction process. And just after a lot of conversations with you about how to implement it in our business, we definitely saw it as another angle. I mean, selfishly, as another angle for us to get business. Not even so much about, we've learned since then how much it can help out our clients, but more so at the time of how we could grow our business. When Justin and I formed a partnership 8 years ago or whatever, I'd come out of a team. He had come out of teaching high school. So we were still pretty novice in what we were trying to grow. And so having that auction platform, we really leaned on it from day one in order just to be a different avenue that we could talk to sellers about that, could put us on level playing fields with people that had perhaps been around for a really long time.
I think that's really well articulated, that, putting you on that level playing field against people that had been around a long time and that somewhat probably were complacent with the way that they were doing things in the traditional real estate sense. And I think that the thing that I want to ask about is that, what do you think was the confidence that was given to you from the auction team, or it was me doing the auctions with you in the first
Correct.
degree, is that what confidence was given to you to actually try it? Like, what was the thing that sort of made you the most confident to do it?
I mean, honestly, that answers you at the time, and just the way that you presented it as where you came from, obviously, coming from Australia, and what it did over there, and the things that it was doing, or obviously it was done for that marketplace. Um, I'd been in the business probably 8 to 10 years before you and I ever met or ever discussed auction. So I had a strong apprehension against it.
Mm,
When I first came to Harcourts, I mean, Kevin is who we interviewed with, along with Bob, both incredible people to get involved with. But even when Kevin presented it to me originally, it sounded a little bit gimmicky and a little bit, I don't know. It just, from a traditional real estate standpoint, someone that's been in the business, been involved with a lot of transactions, it did sound gimmicky or
yep.
almost
Yep.
unnecessary for the marketplace. Justin, my partner, he was new in the business, so he didn't have any pretense behind what's normal and what's not normal. So honestly, he bought in a lot quicker than I did, and my apprehension stayed on a lot longer than his did. But again, once we got through the process a couple times and saw some of the opportunities it afforded us, I mean, we became believers quite quickly after that.
I think that there's a couple of things to sort of be taken away from that. Is that the first one, that you said Justin had only just entered the real estate industry, and he'd come from a teaching background. I
Correct.
guess that I guess that naivety, he was ready to go when it came to the auction process. Whereas yourself, having that experience in that traditional sense and felt unnecessary, I think that that's a really good way of putting it. Where the mental set is for most people is they feel it's unnecessary and maybe not the right thing to do, but it's a different and bigger swing bringing it all the way over. Have you seen people that are new to the real estate industry take auction on and really embody it from the very beginning? Have you seen them rise to success quicker than those that might be competing in a traditional sense?
Without a doubt. I mean, you use someone like Rachel in my office, who has come on, and again, fresh in the business, didn't know anything else, and was presented auction. She believed in it right away and has built an incredible business on the backs of being able to present that. And I mean, she's a 27, 28-year-old woman, who didn't know anybody when she moved here. So I think not not having any preset expectations or interpretations of it when it's presented to you versus a traditional real estate background, I think that does help. Otherwise, it does. I mean, as a traditional real estate agent, it took some time to get my mind wrapped around the difference of it. And I was thinking about this. The quick story is, we have a woman that works with us named Whitney, who's a phenomenal partner in this, but she really runs the back end of our business. And she had a situation recently where we got to do an auction on some of her close friends' house, and she was really nervous about it. And
Yeah.
again, we run 10 auctions plus a month through our business, and then all of a sudden, when it was pertaining to her, she got very, very nervous and was almost apprehensive to do it. And I think the fear comes from, when you do an auction on a property, it really puts the pressure on to bring a result. If you list a house traditionally, you can put up a sign and you can buy 3, 4, 5 months before any real pressure is put on you. When you decide to go the auction route, there is a lot of pressure on you as a listing agent from day one. And I do think a lot of agents, myself included at times, shy away from that pressure. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it makes total sense. It brings up a story that you may or may not remember the property that I actually sat in front of the sellers. They were an older couple. It's actually, when you drive down the okay, this is gonna be really bad for the people on the podcast, but Justin Street that he lives on now, if you go to the end of that street like you're leaving his house, you turn left and you go down to the park. It's like Caddy Corner across the park.
Yes,
Do
of
you remember that
course.
house? Okay, so
Vividly.
so I so this is a story, guys, that I was sitting in the living room, and it wasn't about auction or not auction at this point with these sellers. They were older sellers. They really didn't really understand auction. The boys brought it up just for a point of difference. It was a highly contested listing at the time, and I remember sitting there, and they're like, "Well, hang on a second, like." why should we choose you, so to speak, to Justin and Chad? And I sort of butted in at this point. I'm like, hey guys, I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'm actually the person here trying to convince you that auction is the ultimate way to go. But the reason that I believe that you should actually go with Justin and Chad is because they want to use auction on your property. Let me give you an example of this. Is that, let's say that you go with XYZ Real Estate with Joe Smith, whoever it is, and they put your property on at X amount of dollars for a period of time, and then they don't get a result, or what they're going to be doing is coming back to you within a couple of weeks' time asking you for a price reduction. However, there's zero accountability to them or the surrounding marketplace around what's happening. Okay. Whereas
True.
Justin and Chad they're going to put a date on when they need to have a result for you by, which is the auction date, whether it's before or on the day of that auction. They're announcing not only to you, but also the general market where they are trying to build a business, that they are going to have a result in some way, shape, or form by this element of time. I think that that is just such a beautiful point, Chad. The pressure of producing a result is one thing that I think why agents shy away from it. But secondly, is why agents should be doing it to win the business.
For sure. Yeah.
Now you run one of the largest real estate offices that we have that does auctions. You are the number one auction office across all of North America for us as Harcourts Auctions, and
Sure.
you are the spearhead of that, and you run that. And
Sure.
you've gone through your own apprehensions with the process and all of those different things.
Yes.
We've spoken a few times now why you don't see agents do it, but can you give an example though where you've got an agent in the thick of your office that is an auction orientated office? You've got the number one agents in that office being you and Justin, 80% auction focused at the moment, and yet they're still not doing it. Can you
Sure.
give any type of diagnosis to that?
I do. I think there's a lot of things that go into it. I think number one, it is a lot more work for us as agents to run an auction process. We have to get the seller to not only commit to our commission, we have to get them to commit to fees up front, including a home inspection and the auction administration fee. So there's more selling on that. You have to do a tremendous you have to do a lot of upfront work in order before the property goes on the market. Versus if you just list a house traditionally, I mean, I could come over to your house right now. We could sign a contract, put a for sale sign up, and I could have it in the MLS this evening. That's just not the case with that situation. And I really do think when it comes down to it, it's people's comfort level. And I think in theory, a lot of these agents that you'd be talking about, and I have a couple in mind, in theory, they very much believe in it, but they have such a big background in the traditional market that the extra work, the accountability, the nervousness of it at the last minute, it makes them shy away from it.
Yeah. Do you think that's fair for the sellers? Sorry to interrupt your podcast, but I wanted to make sure that you're aware of the Harcourts Auction business plan that is available to you as a free value add to your business. We released it earlier this year and have had an overwhelming number of people download it, but also an overwhelming amount of feedback that when they put it into action, it's changed the way that they've thought about their business. Not only from a numbers perspective, but also as a inward lead flow to make sure that they're building a repeat and referral business for the future. The main goal of what we're trying to plan for is to remove you from cold prospecting into that repeat and referral natured business that everybody wants. Again, it is available to you on the 16th of January was the episode that you can go back and listen to on podcast or go back and watch through YouTube. But also, if you need to, go to harcourtsauctions.com, click the menu tab, go into the blogs and resources section, and you'll be able to find it under the Harcourts Auctions business plan. Also, you can send me an email, ben.brady@harcourtsauctions.com, and I'd be happy to send it through to you.
Do I think it's fair for No, I don't, because again, and this isn't me blowing smoke. It's what's there's we've been in this year alone, 2022, we've had two different markets. The first 6 months of the year, auction was amazing because we'd have 4, 5, 10, 12 registered bidders, and we'd be able to hit absolute home runs on our auctions because we didn't know I had no idea what these houses were worth because buyers were willing to pay so much for them. So we were able to bid the price up to prices that blew my mind. And then now in the second half of the year, when the market's completely different, I still don't know what houses are worth because the market's going down. We're in a recession.
Yeah.
Things have changed dramatically. So instead of trying to guess what the heck their house is worth, if we use the auction platform, it makes sure we don't overprice it. It makes sure we still get interest in the house, and we're still bringing results. Versus there's a lot of listings that are just sitting out there traditionally because the agents just simply got the prices wrong. So my long-winded answer is that I firmly believe this is in the best interest of the sellers, but I still am out there every day doing this. Sellers have their own apprehensions for some of the reasons that we've talked about, because again, it puts their house on the spotlight. Things need to happen, or otherwise it to them it makes them very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that they're all really solid points for people to sort of understand. The one thing I will say is that I kind of actually feel sorry for yourself and Justin to an extent when it comes to your commitment to auction, is that you guys have seen it work not only in a few different situations, but in a business that is one of the most substantial real estate businesses we have, that we work with across all of North America. So it's kind of like a fiduciary obligation for you guys to bring up auction now because of the success that you've seen it. You can't just take the easy route, because it would be
Sure.
blatantly obvious well, the easy route of traditional, because it would be blatantly obvious that some of your best results have come from the auction process, and it would be blatantly obvious that you're not offering the same opportunity to those sellers. And I said this in Oregon. We do some business up there with some agents and through the auction process. And I said to them, and I cautioned them, because the Oregon real estate marketplace has been so good because of the inbound nature of it for so long, is that I said to them, be careful doing this auction. They're like, well, why? Because you're going to get such a great result that if you don't bring it up to future sellers, it's actually your fault. I think that you're not fulfilling your fiduciary obligation as an agent to disclose an actual process that they might not know about that could get them more money, and in most cases does. I think that is borderline fraudulent in some way, if I'm going to throw around that horrible term. But I guess that. Do you see it that way?
I see where you're coming from that way, and I love again your passion behind this is the reason that it works so much. For me, and just being honest, I see it more in a selfish way.
Yep.
In regards to, again, when we go into a listing presentation, even if it's with our closest friends now, it's going over the two different methods of sale, saying, "Hey, this is traditional, this is auction." We obviously have a little bit more passion behind the auction, but it really makes the presentation much easier because we're in real estate, there's not much differential between Justin and I and the next person, even the person that just got their brand new real estate license. It's tough to go into a presentation and say what we're going to do differently. But however, when we have these two different options for people, and we're certainly more passionate about auction 100% of the time because of the success that we've had with it, it really takes the conversation off what are you going to do and show me your marketing and getting in the weeds on this, and it gets into more substance of how are we going to go about selling your house, which then leads to more contracts being signed based upon we're going to choose a direction and go with that versus
Mm.
having to come up with a listing presentation that we all know as agents there's not a whole lot of substance behind what we're going in to say, or and there could be a lot of white lies being shared. We've eliminated all of that, and now we're just going in there very very definitively and saying, hey, this is traditional, this is what it looks like, this is what a list price would look like, but we'd also like you to consider doing it this way. And with our passionate approach to it, that's why even our friends tend to lean towards going auction now. Not because we're pushing it so much more, it's just because it makes logical sense when it's presented accurately.
Yeah, the logical sense of the explanation of it is that it's hard to deal with logic, and sometimes people just say no for the sake of saying no. But ultimately, the logic in the auction process, when explained to you, is overwhelming. I want to change gears a little bit, though. I want to go into again, not to diminish you in any way, mate, but
Oh, jeez.
you're not an aggressive person when it comes to you. The conflict nature of real estate is not the part that you like the most. You're not a conflict person, even though you deal with it really well. Is that it's fair enough to say that if I ever call people or we ever get reviews, they are in love with you because Chad is the nice guy in the equation and he's the lovable character in the equation. The
Just
part
like
of
Louis.
wow, you're referring. I would say that you've got some symbolic nature to Bluey, but it's more so not in the personality. It's more so the cushiness, the
Yeah,
play.
I knew that was coming, but
Yeah.
continue, please.
so so the one thing that I remember having a conversation with you early on when we did your first auction, you were apprehensive partly because of you were worried about the pushback you were going to get from the other agent community.
Sure.
And I'd like to speak to that. Is that first of all, what was your experience and what was your animosity, or sorry, excuse me, your anxiety behind that in the first degree? And then second, part two of the question is that how did you deal with it, and how do you deal with it now, and how do you let it roll off the chest, so to speak?
Bob Wolf made a great point to me once, and he said the other agents and other people don't pay your mortgage, and until they start paying your mortgage, you shouldn't be too worried about them. And I think that really resonated with me. when we first started auction, Ben, I don't know if you remember, no one in where we were in Orange County, no one had done it before. No one knew anything about it. So I mean, every time we listed one, the conversations were between all of us and these people were excruciatingly long on explaining what the process was. So at that time, it was more of a challenge because we had to keep having these laborious conversations with these people about explaining how to get involved. And of course, I was sensitive to that in regards to how they might react to it. And again, we were growing a business, but once we took that out of the equation and started focusing on what's in the best interest of our business and how can we grow our business, it just made logical sense to keep moving forward with it. And the one piece of advice I can give to anybody that's new to the auction is just embrace those conversations. Use that as an opportunity to educate anybody that calls in to what a great process it is.
Yeah.
Because if you were representing a buyer over the past 2.5 years, you probably lost out on more houses than you care to imagine because of losing it to someone with a higher price. In our platform, that just doesn't happen because everybody is in a transparent forum to compete and submit their highest offer based upon what they see. So again, my long-winded answer is it is a bit of a challenge. It is certainly challenging when you bring agents in. It just takes a little bit more explanation. But once an agent is on board and understands it, for the most part, they're supporters of it.
For the percentage that aren't supporters of it, do you see a consistent correlation with the type of agents that they are?
Again, older agents, lazier agents. Again, there's no real correlation. It's just the more traditional the agent, the more they're maybe a little apprehensive to something that's a newer concept to them. But everything can be cured with a good conversation, and that's all it takes. Is again, it just takes additional conversations to be had. But as an agent, you get to learn so much more about the buyers and the agent and all that by having these conversations. So then again, you ultimately pick the right person to purchase the property. So you know the reason that agents don't like auction, from my experience, is because, as you can hopefully tell from some of these conversations, it takes more work as an
Mm,
agent to do an auction than it does to do a traditional listing. You don't have to
yeah.
have these conversations. When you're getting 15 offers, you don't have to deal with 15 different agents when you're listing traditionally. In this aspect, you do. But I'm here to say that based upon the business that we're growing, that the more conversations you're having, the more people you're spreading the word to, the more sellers you're in front of. That's how you build a bigger business. If you're looking to just kind of hide out, put your sign up and not talk to anybody, then this is probably not the way for you to go ahead and build a real estate business.
Yeah, and I do struggle with the agent community that doesn't want to offer something that they, whether they believe it or they don't believe it, but just trying to broaden their offering to their sellers so that they can make an informed and educated decision. But I guess that you mentioned something before that I want to circle back on as we round out the end of this podcast. I want to circle back on something where you said that you didn't know the price of real estate in the last 12 18 months because it was moving so quickly. We didn't know what people were prepared to pay for it. But then
Sure.
also recently in the marketplace, obviously with things changing and demand changing and interest rates going up, the value of it is a little bit of a guessing game in every way, shape, and form. And you said that you used auction as a tool there. I want to go back to that because I think that you've been doing this long enough from an auction sense that it's probably second nature to you now that you understand that your opinion of value is something that is, whilst it matters, it's not 100% accurate most of the time because auctions probably proven that concept multiple times that what you thought versus the reality of what the outcome was actually not close at all.
When I sold my own house, I had that happen.
Well, I guess that maybe taking people through that scenario, but I guess how did there was a struggle in the very first degree when I remember doing a presentation with you, mate, where you said to me, "Hey, can you not say that thing you normally say?" And I said, "What was that?" And you're like, "You know how you say that typically an agent walks in, they tell you a price that's probably higher than ultimately what you want to get the business, and then a couple of weeks later they're in front of you asking you for a price reduction. If they're a good agent, 3 weeks if they're a bad agent, 4 weeks if they're avoiding conflict, and then all of a sudden you're dead in the water because of reputation, blah, 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 blah." Is that you said don't say that because were you still struggling with the concept of that, your opinion of value doesn't matter because you're not writing a check, or what was that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think from a traditional mindset, as an agent, you think it's your job to know the value of homes. So that is as a super realtor, that is my value to the world, is that I know what a house is worth. That is what you tell yourself, and you tell yourself incessantly so that you can sleep at night that you have a job. But what I've learned over the course of doing this is now I go to listing presentation that is so pompous to say that you ever know the actual price of what a house is going to sell for in any market, because you really have no idea what the price is. So I love going into listing presentations now and saying that, be like, again, I am not going to sit here and promise you a price. I'm not another agent that's going to come here and just tell you some magical price and make a promise that they can't keep. But I am going to promise you a process to find the absolute highest price possible for your home, and you'll have the ability to decide whether you want to take that or not.
Yeah.
I think it gives you so much more credibility now to say, hey, we don't know what the value of the home is. We don't know what buyers are out there right now. We don't know how much someone's going to value your blue room with Bluey in it. We just don't know how much a buyer is going to value that. So let's give ourselves the opportunity to maximize that value by taking price out of the equation and starting with a starting to bid from price that will attract the most amount of people, and we'll all together find out what the market thinks your home is worth. And the best part is, if you don't get the price you want or you're not satisfied with the terms, you don't have to sell. But at least you'll know in a short period of time exactly what the market thinks your home is worth, which is why this process is so brilliant.
And I
And
don't
then they
think
sign, and it's good from there.
I don't think I could articulate it better myself. I just want to make reference to something. Did you notice he said super agent with a bunch of superheroes behind him?
Oh yeah, I got Spider-Man. I think that's Black Panther, Bluey, Spider-Man. This is it. This is where I work, guys.
That's a power room, bar. That's a power room.
This is
That's
it.
a power room. Now, I'm going to end the podcast with favorite auction story. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I haven't given you any heads up on this, but do you have a favorite auction story that you've got that you might share with the team?
There's one thing I want to share before that, again, that I just think is the most important thing for agents to consider when they're doing this is, when you're getting into auction, please remember that you're doing it for yourself and that it's a great tool to get yourself into the market. Because when Justin and I first started off, we got listings that we had no business listing because we had this auction platform to lean on. We weren't going in there off our track record, off our history. We were going in there off a process to sell their home. And these were very expensive homes that, again, we would not have listed had we not had auction. So that's what I try to tell my agents in my office is, forget your opinion of it. Forget if you think it works or doesn't work. Use it as a tool for you to get listings and get business that you have no business getting. And I think that's the biggest thing that I would encourage people to remember is all the different ways. Meet with Jason, meet with Ben to see how you can use this tool to interject yourself into any market that interests you.
Yeah,
So that's my last pitch on that.
Well, again, mate, I reflect on the perspective of the fact that we were in people's houses, that you and I have only ever dreamt of being in properties like that, pitching auction to people that ultimately only had us there because of a point of difference, that ultimately grew a business that is one of the most successful businesses that we partake in, being yours and Justin's. And, it wasn't from a zero start, but it was certainly from a start that everybody would probably would be assuming at the moment would be more than what it actually was by the nature of where your business is today. But I guess rounding it out, what's that favorite auction story? Or are you just avoiding? I'm avoiding.
Oh no, my favorite auction story is selling my own house. That's by far the one that I did the absolute best on. And again, it's the short version of the story is, I sold my house in San Juan last year. Of course, did auction with it and ended up getting close to probably $1 million more than I thought the house would ever sell for, what I would have listed it for traditionally. But I just want to say, being as a seller, that's the way you teach yourself real estate, because we sell a lot of houses. I was a nutty seller that Ben and Justin had to call and calm me down and say, no, don't take that offer yet. I think we can do better with what's going on out there. And I'm like, no, take it, sign the deal. And the auction proved to be quite a success for my family and I. So that will always go down as my favorite story for a lot of reasons.
I really appreciate you saying that, because it was actually a little bit of medicine in the other direction. Because you remember when so Justin and Chad have been responsible for helping us buy homes and sell homes, but I think that the best part about it is that
sorry, I live in a farm.
That's okay. You've got that. I guess the best part about it was that Calista and I, when we sold our property in Laguna Niguel, Justin and Chad represented us, and they called us the craziest sellers that they've ever dealt with.
No. I called you the craziest seller. You are nuts. Calista was lovely.
So it was good to get some of that medicine back.
It
There's no
was,
question
yes.
about it.
It is. That's actually my best advice for a realtor. Sell your own house before you do anything, so you have an idea of what the hell these sellers are going through, because it is a training like no other.
Absolutely. Mate, I want to thank you for jumping on the podcast. Thank you for your support over the number of years. You have been the guinea pig in the equation, but
My absolute pleasure.
ultimately come out on top and will continue to. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Ben. See you guys.
See ya. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.